Welcome to What is New in the World of Blockchain. My name is David Orban, and I am the managing advisor of Beyond Enterprises. We are a strategic advisory firm helping blockchain projects succeed. And in this series, we explore the various developments, applications, use cases in the world of blockchain that is brimming with innovation, with people who are excited to test how to bring this new technology to benefit people all over the world. The ability to explore this is due to the fact that the barriers to entry are low, even though the technology is non-trivial. Anyone who has a computer, a smartphone, an internet connection can start exploring this world, be inspired by what they learn and what others are doing, come up with a new idea, gather a team around them, start executing, iterating, and then reaching out to find more resources, more talent to aggregate around what they are doing. And we are inviting guests who really are doing that, who are applying their expertise, who have entered the world of Bitcoin and blockchain, whether many years ago or just more recently, but nonetheless are exploring what is new and what is possible. So with that, I would like to welcome today's guest, On Yavin. On, thank you very much for joining our show. And please tell us about you. Tell us what you do, your role in the organizations that you are leading, but also then tell us, how did you enter the world of blockchain?
Sure. Hi, David, and hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm the founder and CEO of Cointelligence and the managing partner at Cointelligence Fund. I was introduced to blockchain and cryptocurrency about 4.5 years ago. I got a phone call from a good friend of mine who told me about blockchain and crypto, and it took me about 25 minutes to realize that it's the future for so many different things for us, starting with financial markets, going to other industries. What most people don't realize is the fact that blockchain is actually disrupting and potentially disrupting many industries out there, not just the financial markets. And I decided to get into it, and I started studying from day to night everything I could and everything I found about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I'm still learning until today. It's such a new innovation, and I always say that there's no real experts in our industry. There's only students, because everything is so fresh and new. And if you think that you know it all, then the next day you need to start learning again, because you have a new type of blockchain, a new type of concept, a new type of this, and a new type of that.
Can I tell you a secret? One of the reasons why I started this series is exactly for what you just said. I want to learn, and I want to learn from my guests, and I want to also give the opportunity for those who are following us in our ecosystem to learn. So thank you for giving us that opportunity. What is the starting point for Cointelligence? Let me share actually the homepage of Cointelligence so you can tell us about it.
Sure. So when we started Cointelligence, we following a market research that we have done back then, we realized that most of the companies that are publishing and advertising everything around research is not high level enough. And the biggest problem that we've noticed is that most of them were either shady or completely misleading. So we decided to start as a research company, and we established the ICO rating system back then. Later on, we established the crypto exchanges rating system, and it was very important for us to publish the rating and everything around the research that we've done in the most impartial way possible and without any connection to a specific project. And we are very proud to say that we are probably the most unbribable and impartial rating system out there. And I'm not even talking about the extreme cases that we've encountered when we realized that most of the rating websites, for example, were being paid. And you can already see a few indictments by the SEC against some of these companies, obviously the ones that they can actually reach and do something about. And they indicted them about accepting payments for rating. And that's something that we never agreed to do, because if you accept payment for rating, then obviously the rating is worth nothing, zero. So that was the beginning of for Cointelligence. Later on in 2019, we decided to establish Cointelligence Academy and provide online and offline education services. So you can find the 101 class that is provided completely for free. For example, you don't even need to sign up. You don't even need to give out your email or any identification. You can just start learning, just start with the play buttons on the videos. And beside that, there's also premium classes that are paid. And we are also doing a lot of offline activities, workshops, seminars, and other educational events. And later on in 2021, early this year, we established Cointelligence Fund. Based on the success that we've had with our trading and investments, we decided to do it formally as a fund, and that's our main focus these days.
Before we start and talk about the fund and its focus, you are based in Israel, and for the past year and a half, when you say we did local, we did in-person training. Well, that was either in Israel itself or digital too, even though it was synchronous rather than based on recorded material. How would you characterize the environment for blockchain innovation in Israel, which, and I don't know how many people realize, is a huge hub for startups already? There is a book actually entitled Startup Nation that talks about the Israeli technology innovation. So, for example, and this is one of the reasons of my question, Silicon Valley tried to ignore blockchain for a long time, to the point that it really succeeded, and now it is scrambling to catch up in becoming a backwater of blockchain innovation, right? So how do you see Israel in this sense?
So first of all, a small correction. I'm not based in Israel. I'm originally from Israel. In the last 5 years, up until a year ago, I was based in London, UK. And since a year ago, I've been traveling the world in different locations. And these days, right now, I'm in the middle of a relocation process to the US. So that was a long correction, but just to be accurate. With regards to your question, I can definitely answer it. because I'm very, very much involved in the Israeli high-tech scene. I have been involved for many years before I got involved in blockchain and in the blockchain and crypto industry. I've been an angel investor for many years, and I also mentored and advised hundreds of different startups, while most of them were Israeli startups. And yes, Israel is definitely a startup nation. I would say that it's probably the biggest innovation hub in the world, considering the small population in Israel. Because in Israel, we have around 10 million people. And if you compare it to other locations in the world, it's extremely small. With regards to blockchain and cryptocurrency, my answer is divided into a few parts. First of all, unlike Silicon Valley, there's a lot of blockchain, there's many blockchain and crypto companies in Israel, or I should say there were many, especially during the ICO craze. And even if the companies themselves weren't established in Israel for different reasons, for regulation, for tax reasons, and so on, there were many, many Israeli founders managing blockchain and crypto companies. And obviously, a few of them became very famous and well known. And the second part of my answer is that unfortunately, we've also seen too many scammers coming from Israel. Actually, there's a few scammers that are very well known in the entire blockchain and crypto
Do
industry.
you, do you mean out of proportion? So, given a number of given the number of the population, given the number of startups, given the number of blockchain or crypto projects, are you saying that Israeli projects had a higher percentage of scams than other territories?
Absolutely. And we're talking about, just as an example, we are talking about ICOs, for example, that raised hundreds of millions of US dollars, and they were complete scams, or the second level below scam, a complete bullshit project that doesn't solve any problem. Nobody needs what they're doing, and they just did it because of the buzz and because everything that was going on during the ICO craze, and were able to completely fool mom and pop investors to invest so much money in them when they had nothing, and they didn't even plan to build anything.
Uh, I understand, of course, and I also admire how passionate you are about wanting to establish the truth and distinguish or point the finger against scammers. Do you allow for projects in blockchain, similarly to projects in traditional startup world, to honestly try and fail to achieve their goals?
So first of all, I am one of these people that are very personally that is very proud of my failures. I'm very very proud of them because I had many successes over the years, but at the same time I also had more failures than successes. If it's investments, if it's startups that I helped, if it's companies that I started myself, and so on and so on. So don't get me wrong. I think that failing is a part of day-to-day business, and I am not excited in a negative way or concerned when it's a startup that is trying to change the world and is doing something completely disruptive. That's everything that I love about technology and about innovation. But when you create all kinds of startups and you know that there's no possibility to succeed for different reasons, because the tech is not there yet, and maybe in 20 or 30 years we will be able to do it, or because, for example, so many crypto startups were very well aware of the regulation issues, but they completely ignored these regulation issues. Up until today, we have some very famous crypto startups that completely ignored regulation and they are not even willing to disclose the identities of some of the co-founders, some of the directors, the location of the offices, and so on and so on. So don't get me wrong, I completely understand all the issues, but if you know that you're doing something wrong, and let me give you an example of a startup that I was talking to a few days ago. And I'm asking one of the co-founders, this was a potential investment for Cointelligence Fund. And I'm asking one of the co-founders, why aren't you on the presentation of the startup? And that specific co-founder answered, oh, that's because I'm based in China and I can't be on the presentation because that's against the law. So I'm asking that co-founder, so you want me to invest in your startup when you are acting against the law? And and that person said yes. So that's a great example. And by the way, even investors are taking part in this game and investing in startups while they know that they are acting against the law. So I'm not willing to be a part of this game, and I'm happy to support founders of startups, not when they're acting against the law.
Let me ask you another provocative question around this point. Regulators are put in place, elected or more often appointed, to make sure that there is a level playing field among competitors and that the general public receives value through products and services in certain economic sectors rather than being exploited or being taken advantage of or being scammed. Technology innovation, especially as it accelerates, puts regulators in an impossible position where they are expected to be able to predict the consequences of that innovation, which billions of dollars of investors are guaranteed to get wrong most of the time anyway, because there are very few startups that are able to predict how that innovation will play out. And those are the winning startups. There are very few investment funds that are able to get a winning streak one after the other all the time. So why should regulators be different? Regulators are not going to be able to predict how innovation is going to play out, but they are still expected to regulate about innovation. Given that, do you see no place for what could be called a jurisdictional arbitrage, where founders in a globally interconnected world are asking themselves, where can I find a more welcoming environment that accepts the experiments that I want to honestly play out, either succeeding or failing, rather than being stuck in a jurisdiction where I don't feel the playing field is level, where I think that the incumbents are more protected and the new experiments are not allowed to flourish?
So, first of all, we started talking about regulation, and that was the third and last part of my answer for your previous question. With regards to Israel specifically, the situation with the regulators is horrible. It's so horrible that it makes Startup Nation, the concept of Startup Nation, to be a joke with regards to blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Israel is one of the worst places in the world at the moment for blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I can't even. It's gonna waste our entire time if I tell you how bad it is and how many problems crypto investors, crypto users, and crypto startups, founders of startups are having in Israel. Now, to answer what you just asked me now, first of all, I think that the regulators are not exactly doing what you just said. Potentially, they're supposed to do it. Hypothetically, they're supposed to do it. But the bottom line is that the protection for the mom and pop investors is so small and so not significant compared to the damage that the regulators are creating. First of all, they are hurting innovation in a drastic way. And right now, I'm talking about the leading Western countries. For example, the US, the UK, some countries in Europe, and so on and so on. They are completely acting against the innovation for blockchain and cryptocurrencies and the progress that we can make. The second part of what I have to say is that most of the regulators don't understand anything until right now with regards to blockchain and cryptocurrencies. They do not ask for the proper and right advice from people that can actually help them. I'm also talking from personal experience. After I offered my help and my team's help to a few regulators, some of them agreed to get our help, but some of them completely ignored us. And it's not just us, they ignored other people that offered their help. And these are the people that are supposed to regulate and create laws that are supposed to either protect us or to help with a progress for the innovation. And the last part with regards to regulation, I always laugh when I hear that regulators are supposed to protect the mom and pop investors. Let's remember one important thing. In some states in the US and in the UK, and I'm talking about the US and the UK because I'm very familiar with these jurisdictions and markets, it doesn't mean that it doesn't apply to others. In these jurisdictions, people can gamble as much as they want. They can go into a casino. Let's take London, UK, for example, where I lived for 5 years. I have seen on a daily basis the casinos in almost every high street corner. So if the lawmakers and the regulators care so much about people, why are they letting them spend their entire life savings on blackjack or roulette? It's a well-known fact that most people will lose their money in casinos. Why is it available to everyone? And I'm not telling you, okay, let people invest as much money as they want. Obviously, some people will have a big problem with what I'm about to say because for some people, it's our money. If we profited our money, we are supposed to be able to spend it on whatever we want as long as it's not creating damage or hurting other people and as long as it's not against the law. So some people will have an issue with it, but I'm not even saying that. I'm saying let people invest in any ICO out there with a limitation of a small amount, for example. And the situation at the moment with the regulators is that the people with money, especially millionaires and billionaires, they can do whatever they want. They can enjoy all the benefits of the traditional financial markets, while most of the people out there are not able to do so.
The way I talk about this is that according to the regulators, the poor are stupid. So thank you for that. Now let's move to your latest project, the Cointelligence Fund. You said that it was born both through your experience as well as from a particular passion. So tell me about it. How is it structured? What does it aim to do?
Sure. So when we started Cointelligence Fund, we decided to establish it because we've been very successful with our own trading and investments. When I say we, I'm talking about myself personally and some of my team members at Cointelligence. And later on, and very quickly after we established the fund, a few months later, we decided to completely focus the fund on the play to earn concept and everything around it. So for anyone that is listening to us and doesn't understand what play to earn means, I'll briefly explain it. Play to earn means that you're playing games and you can actually profit money, obviously in the form of cryptocurrency at the moment, and it can be different types of cryptocurrencies. And if you want to exchange them to fiat money, because most of the people in the world need to pay bills with fiat money, you can obviously do it these days easily. And the biggest innovation here and the biggest change here is that one, you can profit, as I said, and second, you can actually own the in-game properties or the in-game items. So when you play a game and you create a character, you own that character, and as you play, you can actually make the character to become more valuable, and everything that you spend, the time that you spend on playing the game, is not going to be wasted for nothing when you decide that you want to stop playing that specific game, which is the case with traditional games.
The business model of the computer games has been based on a big investment at the beginning for the development and then the marketing of the game, and the sale of the game to the players at actually ever increasing amounts, from $19 to $39 to $49, now $99, maybe even more. And I have 3 children. Now they are grown, but I remember that I was pretty shocked that when they would come to me and say, hey, we want not only the console, but we want 1, 2, 3, 10 games, and each of them would be pretty expensive. So let's start with the business model. Play to earn completely changes from the point of view of game developers and game publishers, these models. Is that correct?
Yes, we have to make one exception and say that for some of the games, in order to start playing the game, you need to actually buy something, like buy the first character. So it's very similar to what you described, but if you play enough, then you can actually get back the money that you spent on buying the characters or the items. And also, there is another option for some people that are not able to afford these characters or items to partner up with a company that is managing players, for example, and helping them start playing and also help them to improve their gameplay, because then it's like a joint venture, and then you do a rev share between the company that is sponsoring the player and the player that is playing the game. But beside that specific exception, yes, it's a complete disruption and change, because it's not only paying for the game itself. Over the years, what happened is that most of the games became free to play, and you didn't need to pay any money in order to start playing the game. But the business model was that after you play the game, you're starting to buy in-game items. And that's how the companies made a lot of profit, at least some of them. In our case, with the play-to-earn concept, instead of paying for the items, in many cases, you will be getting the items and you will be selling them on the different marketplaces to collectors that want to collect these items, or for other gamers that need these items and are not able to achieve them, to get them by themselves, or they just don't want to spend the time to get them, and they want a shortcut, so they will pay someone else to get it. And that's the biggest change that I see.
Now, you mentioned the fact that the ownership of the items and the characters is a big change. Actually, it is not even a 90-degree change. It is a 180-degree change, because in the past, game developers would fight against the ability of players to trade items. World of Warcraft originally was full of what were called gold farmers, teams that would spend the time and the hard slog of being able to acquire the sword or the shield or the armor or whatever other item, and then lazy and rich Americans would buy those items on eBay, and very famously, World of Warcraft spent a lot of time fighting against these, so that rather than eBay, specialized websites would be used for these auctions, and the websites were shut down. I remember many years ago a fantastic video from a Chinese team of gold farmers where they would kill orcs, and the orcs falling would spell out the secret URL of the place where you could buy the prohibited items. And actually, the mentality of buying and selling digital goods at the time was already a good training ground for people to get ready to understand and accept the concepts that were made available to a lot of people through Bitcoin and then crypto. And not everyone knows that Brock Pierce, who is now also behind one of the first, if not the first, blockchain fund called Bitcoin Capital, Blockchain Capital, and a prominent figure in the industry, started in gold farming, and that the name of the first or one of the first Bitcoin exchanges, famously going bankrupt in 2014, is not Mount Gox. It is MT Gox, because it is Magic the Gathering. The name of the exchange, not a mountain, but the trading card game. So back to you. From a technology point of view, it is the development and the getting popular of NFTs that made this possible in the world of blockchain. So tell our viewers a little bit about this particular role of NFTs, because most of the people today see NFTs as for art collection, right? Instead, in the world of these play to earn games, NFTs play a much more active, let's say, useful role.
Yes, absolutely. So, first of all, about what you said about World of Warcraft, which happens to be my favorite game, used to be my favorite game, and is still my favorite game until this day. Yes, absolutely. The phenomena was already there, but as you said, it was completely illegal. And Blizzard, the company behind World of Warcraft, is still fighting until today against the gold farmers, because not only it makes some players be they just don't like it because they spend so much time trying to get the gold or trying to get the in-game items, and then, like you said, someone that is you said American and rich, but it's not only Americans, it's all over the all over the world. But yes, rich players can buy these items within seconds or minutes, and it's very unfair. But the second reason, and that's the huge change, and that will lead me to the NFT part that you mentioned. The intellectual property was always owned by the company that was operating and that developed the games. Now everything is based on blockchain, or a part of the game is based on blockchain, because in some cases it's not all based on blockchain. And in these cases, people the players that are getting the in-game characters and items, they are getting it in a few different ways, but one of the ways is that they're being registered as NFTs. And as soon as the NFT was created, then the player owns the intellectual property of that specific character or that specific item in game. And that's what I meant when I said that they can sell it on the different marketplaces as NFTs. Now, it is very important to consider that that right now it's only the beginning. Nobody knows how it's going to progress, how it's going to be developed. But right now it's only the beginning. And that's another reason that it gets me so excited, because right now it's such a huge disruption, but I don't think that we've seen half of it. Probably much, much less. And what's going to come in the next few years is very, very exciting, because I think that we're going to see a disruption over another disruption, because it's so big and so different than what we've had until now. But to explain the specific concept of NFTs, first of all, an NFT is a non-fungible token. And the biggest difference between NFTs and different types of cryptocurrencies, if we compare, for example, an NFT to if somebody holds a Bitcoin or Ethereum, for example, then some of the cryptocurrencies are supposed to be exactly the opposite of NFTs. Because, for example, if I hold one Bitcoin and you hold one Bitcoin, there's not supposed to be any difference between them. The only difference is that I hold the Bitcoin or you hold the Bitcoin. But with NFTs and the concept of non-fungible tokens means that you only have one of them. So in the games themselves, you will be able to have the same character, but the same character or a very similar character will be based on different NFTs. So you can have a character that I have in the game, and we have the same abilities, and it might even look the same, because that's happening many times in games. But my character will be based on one specific NFT, and your character will be based on another specific NFT. And that's why you are going to own it, I'm going to own it, and I will be able, and we are both going to be able to sell it whenever we want.
And I think it is important to highlight that the owner of the NFT of a character doesn't own the copyright to the design of that character. They have the ownership of that particular, let's say, serial number, that particular instantiation of that character. That is why the design could be the same and no one is violating the copyright of anything, but still there is this ownership. A little bit like I can have a banknote of a US dollar, you can have a banknote of a US dollar, and conventionally they are the same, but actually there is a serial number on each of those banknotes, and they can be distinguished. And actually they are. If you can prove that I am in possession, even if I don't know, of a banknote that has been stolen, then that can be confiscated from me. So the fact that money is fungible, that two banknotes are exchangeable, and there is no difference, is a general assumption that 99% of the cases is true. And it is interesting that the US decided to keep Bitcoin's fungibility at the maximum level possible because, for example, when they confiscated the Bitcoin held at Silk Road, and then they turned around and said, does anyone to buy this Bitcoin? And Tim Draper said, yeah, I will buy it. And handed over a few $1 million, which now are a few $1 billion, by the way. The ownership of that Bitcoin wasn't tainting the Bitcoin that would be held or further transferred to other people, even though legally it was the source or it was the consequence of a criminal activity. So these details are I think interesting. Now back to the games. What is your opinion about the architectural limits that blockchains currently have? Because even the most popular play to earn games like Axie Infinity have, quotation marks, just a few million players, but the most popular traditional games have hundreds of millions of players. And some of this is due to, of course, the history. The NFT games, play to earn games, are very new. Traditional games have decades of history already, but some of it actually is attributable to the fact that centralized play is technologically in some areas still superior to decentralized play. If I wanted to play an equivalent of Halo or I don't know what other popular rendering based games could be an example today. Well, we don't have the equivalent on the blockchain of those. So how do you see this necessary coexistence of decentralized and centralized components?
So first of all, before I answer your question, we have to remember one thing. Everything around decentralization, beside Bitcoin, and even with Bitcoin, some would say that it didn't, was not proven yet. There's many critics that will say that decentralization is not real, even with Bitcoin, for example. And Bitcoin is by far the most decentralized example compared to anything else that we have in our industry. So let's remember that. And there's so much to happen in order for decentralization to actually be as decentralized as some of the people in the crypto and the blockchain industry would like. Specifically with regards to the games, first of all, you're absolutely right. That's the situation right now. But as I mentioned before, some of the games are not planning to be completely based on blockchain, and they are planning to connect the game to the blockchain in different ways. So, for example, I am sure that most of the players will not really care if what they're doing in game will be registered within a millisecond, 5 seconds, or even 5 minutes later. It doesn't really matter that much to most of them as long as it will be registered and as long as after some time they will be able to have the NFT and they will be able to use it on any marketplace. Obviously, there will be people that do care, but that's mostly geeks and nerds like me. That's the one part. And the second part is that who cares? I mean, every innovation that we've seen started in this way, and I've been there when I actually played the first games in the world. I was among the first kids in the world to play computer games, to play the Game Boy before the first PC computer that I had. If it's Atari, and so on and so on. You know how these games looked and how many people played these games, and it's exactly the same. And I always love to say the example. I always love to give the example of emails. When I started using emails, everybody laughed at me and said, "Why are you wasting your time? You're sending all kinds of code-based stuff to people that will never read them, to people that will never see them." And let's talk about emails today. So it's exactly the same thing, and we're going to see the play to earn concept grow, and I'm sure about it. I don't want to predict anything because I hate it when people are making predictions, but based on my knowledge and experience, I'm sure that play to earn is here to stay, and it's going to be even developed more to things that we can't even think about right now.
So, what is the uh, type of investment that Cointelligence makes the Cointelligence Fund makes in play to earn games? What is the check size? What is the type of decision and the speed of decision that you take?
Sure. So usually it's between 100,000 to 2 million US dollars. Usually we invest in the seed or even pre-seed rounds. And usually when we make an investment, we are interested in helping the project. And when I say helping the project, it's for real and not like many of the funds out there saying that they're going to help the project in different ways. And then after they make the investment, they don't do anything about it. And when I say help, I'm talking about everything from legal to marketing to fundraising and so on and so on. And as I mentioned before, it's not just the games. It's the games mostly, but it's also investing, for example, in a blockchain that is supposed to be mainly dedicated to the gaming industry, or it can be a launch pad dedicated and focused on gaming, or it can be a company that is building. I'll give you an example of a company that we invested in recently. They created a DAO that is going to be managing a whole ecosystem between gamers and the companies that are building and developing the games themselves. So it's much more than just investing in the games themselves.
Uh, when you invest, is it in return for equity, or do you also accept tokens?
So it's both. We are mainly interested in tokens, which might sound weird to some people because obviously when you invest in tokens, you don't get the rights similar to when you invest in equity. In most cases, you actually have no rights besides receiving the tokens themselves. But because crypto tokens are allowing you to have liquidity that you can't have with equity, we prefer to focus on tokens. But I have to tell you that we've had a few cases already that we invested both in equity and tokens. And that's something that we see that is evolving much more recently. And companies realized, and founders of startups realized that many investors will be worried investing in tokens only because they don't have any rights. So they are offering both equity and tokens.
Um, is the fund still open for receiving investment, or you closed it already?
So it's a great question. The fund is an open-ended fund. So we are able to onboard new investors all the time until the day we decide to change it. But legally, we are able to onboard them, and also financially, we are able to keep onboarding investors as time goes because of what I said right now about the tokens and the liquidity. So it's not like you raise the funds for a traditional VC and then you deploy the capital and then you wait for the exits. No, in our case, we onboard investors. We use the capital to deploy. We deploy the capital in more crypto startups, and everybody joins the previous and the new investors join the previous investors that already invested in the fund.
Uh, would it be logical for Cointelligence Fund to tokenize as well?
So it's something that we did have a few discussions about. I don't think that it's the right time now. It might be an option next year or the following year, but not anytime soon.
Uh, only the rich can invest in the fund, or there is no minimum that someone can contribute?
So unfortunately, and I would say very unfortunately, only the rich can invest in the fund right now, because according to the Gibraltar regulation, and that's where the fund is established and based, we can accept investments of 100,000 euros minimum. Gladly, there's no other restrictions, so anyone can invest anywhere in the world, including Americans, which everybody knows that usually it's a problem and it's an issue for many startups or many funds to onboard American investors. But I'm saying, obviously, unfortunately, with regards to the rich, because if it was up to me, then I would allow anyone to invest, even if it would be $1 in the fund. And I'm hoping that at some point I will be able to offer it to everyone, because I am a huge believer in blockchain and crypto for everyone. I've been preaching about it for many, many years, but unfortunately I can't accept everyone as investors to the fund. And in these cases, when I can't accept someone, then I explain to them what they should do, not as a financial advice, because I'm not a financial advisor, but I would tell them what I would do, for example, if I would be in their position, and under the disclosure that I always say at least twice, like I'm saying now, it's not financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor, just to be clear.
And so what should they do?
So again, because we are live on air, I'm not going to say it. But if somebody is having a personal conversation with me, a private conversation, I'm happy to tell them what I would do. But I don't want anyone to think that even though I'm saying that it's not financial advice, it is, because it's live and public, then I can't say it. I'm sorry.
Okay. And of course, it is wonderful and intriguing how we are testing the limits to the free spreading of knowledge, right? And I am provoking you. You are, of course, gently resisting my provocation, and that is perfectly fine. We are both eager to be welcoming as many people as possible in the world of blockchain, to prove that it is full with opportunity for people who are working hard every day to make their dreams come true. In your case, to make Cointelligence Fund successful. In the case of the games where you invest, to make those games bright with new characters and storytelling, and make millions of people spend hours in an entertaining way, and a lot of other areas of application of blockchain that we didn't touch. So I really hope that the barriers to the spreading of every kind of information is going to keep lowering, so that the empowerment and emancipation that blockchain brings worldwide can proceed. I am showing the Twitter account of both Cointelligence and yourself, as well as the URL of Cointelligence Fund.
Thank you.
Is there any other pointer that you would like to share to our viewers today?
Yeah, so following what you just said, actually, I've been preaching for the last 4 years plus about blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and the fact that they are for everyone, and that's still the case, and it will be even more. And I would like to remind everyone, be very, very careful when you are taking advice from other people. I am always explaining that you should do your own research. Don't trust anyone. Don't trust your friends. Don't trust your family. Not because they don't care about you, because they can be fooled as well. And we've seen so many cases of scams that and scam founders that were able to fool entire families, and they brought their family members one after the other, recommending them that this is going to be the next Bitcoin, this is going to be the next biggest thing. And it was a complete scam, or a bullshit project. So do your own research. It's really easy to learn blockchain and cryptocurrencies. You can learn it online. You can learn it yourself. You don't need to pay for it. It's not just a class that everybody can enjoy on Cointelligence at Cointelligence Academy. You have so much material online that you can access for free. And if you are not being lazy and you are making yourself sit down and learn, you can actually get educated about blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and you can get yourself a new job. You can get yourself new opportunities, and it's not for developers only. And definitely now with the new play to earn concept, it's even much more. And my claim that it's not just for developers is just becoming even more relevant and more powerful.
On, thank you very much for being with us today, and good luck with your fund. And I hope you will have the time also cut aside to do some deep research by playing the games that you are funding, because you deserve to have a little bit of fun with that as well. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone, for being with us today on what is new in the world of blockchain. We love exploring the opportunities that this wonderful technology offers. These cut across many industries on a worldwide basis. And yes, we don't know the implications yet. We make mistakes. We learn from those mistakes. And we invite regulators, jurisdictions to have an open mind towards those people who honestly want to understand how they can benefit from the technology and how they can implement products and solutions and platforms that benefit potentially billions of others. I will see you soon at the next episode of our show. Thank you again.